This is the newly released Volkswagen ID7 2024 Pro Edition. It's time to test range and consumption, noise inside the cabin and charging. And this is during wintertime, -5 degrees outside. Let's start with some information, but first let me welcome you to It's Only Electric. This is the channel where we only test fully electric cars. Built on the MEB Plus platform, that's a updated platform of the MEB Classic platform that's utilized on ID3, 4 and 5, delivering a new drivetrain. In this case, the Pro Edition rear-wheel drive 286 horsepower instead of the old motor that delivered 204. More efficient, more torque, 545 Newton meters. And in this case, the same battery pack as the big battery pack on the old platform, delivering 82 kilowatt hours of gross capacity and 77 kilowatt hours of net capacity. That translates into a full range with these 20-inch rims of 596 kilometers. If you go for the standard rims, 19-inch, you will have 614 kilometers of WLTP range. And to some charging specifications, fast charging up to 170 kilowatts, 10 to 80% in 30 minutes. Let's see about that. When it comes to home charging, AC charging, 11 kilowatts and 3-phase support. The 20-inch wheels are staggered, so 255s at the back, 235s at the front, Continental Viking Contact 7 studless winter tires. Normally equipped with 19-inch, so these are extra. Let's start with the range and consumption test. Will it be possible to achieve the 596 kilometers WLTP range? I don't know, but this should be an efficient car built on an efficient platform. So this is the beginning of the range and consumption test. Current driving conditions, -4 degrees, semi-damped roads, so not the perfect conditions. Sun is shining. I always stick to a certain aspects and rules when I do these tests. First off, the test cycle I'm running is 80 kilometers long. The average speed is 93 kilometers per hour, so speed limits between 50 all the way up to 110 kilometers per hour. 3 very important rules. Rule number 1, I always set the AC to 20 degrees and auto. And as you see, it by default also turns off the passenger seat climate controls, because no one is sitting there and it's saving energy by directing the airflow towards the driver only. That's a good functionality. The second rule is the drive mode. So I always drive on Eco mode or Eco mode when available. And in this case it is, so Eco mode is active. The last point is to stick to the speed limits. Always stick to the speed limits. And the main reason for that is, of course, to be able to create as consistent and comparable results as possible. So soon hitting 20 kilometers of travel distance, average consumption until now 19.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's good. I mean, this is among the most efficient platforms on the market. I mean, the top platforms that I have tested is the MEB platform, probably also the MEB Plus platform, and Tesla's cars in general. So that's probably the 2 most efficient platforms currently on the market. And I expect it to drop furthermore. And I mean, it is a aerodynamic car. I'm not sure about the CV value of the car, but let me ask the car itself and see with the voice control, the IDA or the ID assistant. What is the drag coefficient of the Volkswagen ID7?
According to carbus.com, VW has worked hard to make the ID7 as aerodynamic as possible and has now shared how it has achieved an impressive drag coefficient of just 0.23.
Okay, so there you heard it. Even the car knows the drag coefficient. That is a low drag coefficient. This is a slippery car, and that will, of course, especially in high speeds, help you to achieve high efficiency and longer range. But let's see about that. So one important aspect that I always mention is how to disable the speed limit assist functionality, the warning, the chimes that you get when you drive too fast. Let me see now, it's 80 here, I will drive 84 and it then will stop bugging me. Let's try. I don't know if you hear that, but it's two fairly nicely sounding chimes in this case, not that disturbing. So you deactivate that functionality by digging around within the menus, the settings, and the drive assist functionality, and there you find something called driver monitoring and driver speed warning, something like that. But the good thing is that you can deactivate the sound. There is an easier way to do that. You can actually use the top toolbar to customize that one and create a shortcut, an icon that goes directly to that specific node within the menu system. So I have done that here, and when you press that one, the second row you get called speed warning is the one you just deactivate, and the annoying sound is gone. One thing though is that you need to do this every single time you jump into the car and start it up and drive away again. So every time you drive it, you will need to deactivate it if you're not a fan of that functionality. There's also other settings. You can turn off the audible notifications and just use the illustrations or the animations at the small instrument cluster. But that also deactivates or reactivates after switching off the car and jumping into it again. So a fairly easy way to switch that off. 39 kilometers, very soon hitting halfway. Average consumption until now 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, 17.9 now. So it has been going down in a steady pace. Halfway, 17.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So let's start by summarizing the consumption and range. Final consumption, average consumption during the trip, 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers flat. That equals to a full range for 100% of the battery pack of 427 kilometers. Compared to the stated WLTP range of 596 kilometers, that's 71%. So a bit far away from the stated WLTP range, but as you saw, winter conditions, -4 degrees, not totally dry roads, I would say semi-damped roads. So despite that, I would say that 18 that's a good consumption anyway. And in high speeds, since it has a low CV value, low drag coefficient, it doesn't make that big difference as it can do for SUVs, for instance. So it's kind of a slippery, and the air resistance is fairly low, so you won't be punished that bad in higher speeds. During summertime, you will probably be able to crank out 500 kilometers from this car. That's still far away from the almost 600 kilometers. With the smaller wheels, expect a couple of kilometers more on top of that. Let's move on to the noise test. And as always, I measure noise in different speeds, 50, 70, 90 and 110 kilometers per hour. So 4 different speed sets. I always measure the noise at the same position. So I place the microphone at the passenger headrest, so head height. So a good position for the passenger and the driver gives you a good understanding of the cabin noise. So semi-damped roads, but still a good result. This is a silent car, and with double pane windows, that actually helps decreasing the cabin noise. And it feels like this is really made for highway driving. The suspension paired with the low noise, the good insulation, really makes it a good car for long trips, and I really appreciate that. So this is the result of the measured noise levels. I always try to set that into a perspective and want to compare that with other similar cars on the market. First off, compared to the BMW i4, this is a more silent car. It is also more silent than the Neo ET5 Touring and the sedan version. But I mean, all those three cars are a bit smaller than this one. This is more the luxury sedan segment. So maybe compared to cars like Xpeng P7. Whilst talking about that car, it is exactly on par with that one. So the exact same noise level as the Xpeng P7. Other cars that's more silent than this one is the premium sedan, the EQS. That one is a lot more silent than this one. And on top of that, also the Neo ET7. So ET7 and EQS is still a bit far away when it comes to cabin noise. And just to be clear, this is not my full review of the Volkswagen ID7. If you want to know more about the car, all the details, bells and whistles, I put the link up here for the recent full review I did and released. So don't miss that one if you want to know more about the ID7. So let's move on to the most exciting part of this video, and that's the charge test during winter. So -4 degrees outside, charging the battery pack. It is the same battery pack as the large battery pack in the ID4 and ID3, for instance, but today it comes paired with a preheating possibility. And not only preheat the battery pack for optimal driving conditions and consumption, more towards heating up the battery pack for optimal charging. So we can reach those stated 170 kilowatts of charge power. So this is what happened. I actually activated the preheating and drove the car for around 50 minutes with preheating active. After a while, after 50 minutes, it actually reached optimal temperature. I went for the charger with a state of charge just around 9%. Good thing, it still preheats under 10%. That's nice to see, to be able to optimize the charge curve. And it's up to you to switch it off. Probably it switches it off just around that ballpark. But I plugged it in and achieved a top speed of 186 kilowatts at around 30%. And this is the charge curve. So as you see, it started really nice, flat curve up to 40% approximately. So topped at 186 kilowatts. And at around 40%, it actually started to taper really aggressively and went all the way down to 65 kilowatts. Then it seems like the cooling started and was able to cool the cells in a better way, more efficiently. And then it went back up to 83 kilowatts at around 69%. So this tells me that the cooling, one, either is too weak, or two, starts too late. I think maybe the preconditioning, the cooling in this case, should be a bit more proactive and start earlier to avoid that too aggressive tapering. And in this case actually created a hole in the curve, a big bump, and then after that get up to the real speeds again. So at 80% it ended up at 69 kilowatts, almost 70 kilowatts. Total charge time, 29 minutes and 10 seconds. And that's from 10 to 80%. That's even better than the stated 30 minutes from Volkswagen. Impressive, impressive. And this is only due to the preconditioning, because it's the same battery pack. So there you have it. I actually tried to charge a ID3 with the same battery pack, but without preconditioning, and double the time. So preconditioning is so important. Don't buy a car without battery preconditioning, optimized for charging, not only for driving. So I will try to summarize my experience with this ID7 from Volkswagen, the Pro Edition with the rear-wheel drive only. I would say that the main strong points of this car is the ride comfort. I mean, the DCC suspension, the silent cabin, and the updated interior really makes this car a perfect machine for driving on highways. Long trips, and now with a decent charge curve, that's really possible for real this time, even if you live in countries like Sweden or Scandinavia whatsoever. Cold countries where you will be suffering at least 6 months a year if you don't have preconditioning of the battery pack. This is really a step in the right direction in several aspects. So if you're looking for a big sedan with decent space, but yeah, it's really easy to activate the voice control, the IDA, the ID assistant in this car. It activates, I don't know, it seems to be activating every time I say ID. No, something else. Doesn't matter. So back to my conclusion. If you're looking for a big sedan with comfort, long travels, but still want to have some practical aspects like a hatchback with decent boot space, possibility to add a tow hitch, this might be a alternative for you. And big step in the right direction. I'm really looking forward to test the station version, the wagon version of this one. That will be a really exciting car, at least for the European market and especially Northern Europe. So will this be the car that takes Volkswagen's electrification journey to the next level, to the next station? I'm not sure, but let us have a discussion in the comments below. Really interesting topic if you ask me. Let us talk about it. And as I always say, very important, subscribe, like and engage to support what I do to help me continue with this work. Stay electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.